Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lookout. Baby, you set my soul on fire. Can't get the song out of my head. We'll bring back some avant-gardeners at some point, but I like the new song. I'm going to play it for a while. All right, so last I talked to you, things were pretty wild, pretty raw. Things blowing up in Dillon Creek. Yesterday I got a chance to go out in the field with Michael Steinberg, who you know from this program. It's our first time really going geeking together. So I had a nice trip. Nice thing about going out in Deer Creek, I've driven Deer Creek my whole life, and I'm always driving. So getting a ride up there to Steinberg was great. And we had a good day. We went out. Only problem was I got sick. Not enough sleep, and so about 10 minutes into our drive up the hill, I started running nose and feeling like crap. But we went anyway. And Steinberg and I went out to a really cool spot, Upper Deer Creek Canyon, looking over at the L2 fire, which is burning. And we told you guys about that. And we sat up on top of this cliff, looking over Deer Creek Canyon. I would have been happy to sit there all day, even if there wasn't a fire going, but it's pretty good. We just sat up on the cliff and watched Type 1 helicopters pretty much put that fire out. Really tough ground, some hotshot crews. So we had radios and just kind of did the, all you need to be a fire watcher is a radio with the right frequencies, somewhere nice to sit, hopefully some shade, and binoculars. And you can hang out of the way and check it out. So had a good day with Steinberg. Glad we got to go. Kind of good to clear the head from too much time at the computer. So anyway, we're going to talk about Garnet. Garnet fire is really romping. I didn't do a ton of prep today because I slept in and tried to take care of business. But just check out Garnet. I got a buddy who's headed over there. One thing we got going here is our new video series. Episode 5, the final episode, is hitting tomorrow at noon. And so the guy that shot all that, Joshua Burrows, new good friend, he's headed over today to check out the Garnet fire. So here's the Garnet, and he's going there because he's got a contract to tell the story about them burning tea kettle in the kind of biggest prescribed fire that anyone's pulled off in a long time. And it's not clear if this fire is going to burn tea kettle before they get there, but Sasha's headed over hopefully to film whatever happens. So this is kind of to get you a start on Garnet. Here's Fresno over here. Here's Bishop, east side of the Sierra, and you've got kind of the Kings River here. And this fire blew up about 3 or 4 days ago, and we covered that. But it's really spread explosively since then. And so to give you an idea of kind of the rates of spread, the white line is where it was last night at 3 a.m., and the red line was where it was today at 3 p.m. So it's kind of spreading actively on the north flank here, and it's also spreading actively up canyon. And then there's last night on the infrared, there was a spot here across at 1 a.m. There's a spot here across the North Fork of the Kings River, and that today kind of hauled ass for, I don't know, a good 1,000 acres. So this is just midday. We don't know what it's done, but when we look at the webcams, this thing really is on a tear. It's unclear what it's going to do in tea kettle. Obviously, when we do prescribed fire, it's preferable to burn from the top down, and that's what they've been trying to get set up here in tea kettle, is to prep lines all the way around the edge of this thing and do a big burn. And there's a lot of old snags near the line. All of the Southern Sierra has had massive tree die off in the last 15 years, and so that just makes firefighting difficult because snags kill firefighters, and they also catch on fire and fall over your fire line. So it's one of the reasons that it's just really hard to get in and put these things out, is because especially when you've got tens of miles of fire line to do, getting out there safely and cutting down old rotten trees in places that you can't operate bulldozers because of the terrain or anything else, it's just really difficult. So it's unclear yet what is going to happen in tea kettle, what the severity is going to be. As you get up to the top, it's really pretty high. It's 8,000 feet. And so there's red fir, and red fir has kind of a longer fire return interval. It's not like the ponderosa pine or Doug fir that burn all the time. and are adapted to frequent low intensity fire. Oftentimes, red fir doesn't burn for a century, and then it does burn during a drought with high severity. So it's unclear if um, the fire ecology of red fir is not super well understood, except that it doesn't burn often, and oftentimes it burns hot when it does. And that kind of begs the question, well, should we be trying to put low severity prescribed fire into stands that have a high severity fire regime? You know, these are some of the questions that us burn boss people stay up late. Anyways, I don't know what Sasha's doing, but he was out there tying in with the team today, and I'm hoping that he'll be able to work safely out here ahead of this fire. And so I was kind of spent some time scouting the fire today for those guys. All right, so just as far as kind of the operations here, got an operations map, and it shows kind of how they are dividing up the fire into Division Mike and Division Oscar and Quebec and X-Ray. Well, we've talked about it before, how you organize a fire, but they've got kind of some potential dozer line out here that was scratched in on the ops map here. And then always you wonder, like, if the fire is going to give them time to do that, or if it's going to run up and over the top. So for now, this fire is kind of doing whatever it wants. It hasn't really, it's kind of done. The western flank is fairly done. One of the reasons for that is the smoke tends to go east, so the air tankers and heavy helicopters and stuff have had better opportunities on the west. And also, as we talked about the other day, there's this fire here, this whole area in blue burned last year. So it's just a lot of grass, not a lot of heavy brush and everything. So as far as like this fire threatening Fresno or, you know, stuff farther off to the west, the good news is that most of the western and southern flank of this fire didn't spread between last night at 1 a.m. and today at 3. But that does leave a lot of territory out here. And a lot of this area here hasn't had a fire for a long time. This had the rough fire 10 years ago. But as you head north, you know, this is one of the reasons that there's been a lot of interest in trying to do management like prescribed fire in tea kettles, because you've kind of got like not many places in the Southern Sierra that haven't had enormous fires in the last 10 years. And so you got like these, and as we talk about all the time, these places where there's gaps in the fire history are the places we really need to be focusing all our attention for forest restoration and prescribed fire and everything else, so we can maybe not burn them up like everything else. Anyway, there's some information you can look up about the burn project that is being led by the Climate Wildfire Initiative. And people have been sitting in meetings and writing contracts and doing NEPA and all this stuff, everything except like actually going out there and cutting down trees and prepping. So all that environmental documentation and planning, everything else, like none of that is required for them to send like 30 dozers out here today and bulldoze the biggest fire line you ever saw, with pretty much absolutely minimal environmental review. And so that's the problem we've got, is that when you have a fire, you don't have to ask anyone's permission. You like send in heavy iron, you make a fire line, you might do a big burning operation. If we could do that with prescribed fire, we'd get a lot of stuff done. You know, just tell your division, like, hey, we want 3 blade wide dozer line around this unit tomorrow. See if you can work with the resource advisor and tribes to make sure you don't bulldoze any home sites. All right, go do it. You know, but that's not how it works. So it's a lot easier for us to do full suppression and do whatever we want than it is to actually try to do the right thing, which is to like burn all this. So what I'm hoping is that now that they've got all these dozers out there pushing dozer line everywhere, I'm hoping that they're talking to each other, and that the dozer people and the ops people know that, hey, we want to burn this, because maybe it rains, maybe the fire peters out. It'd be really nice to have like been able to avoid all that NEPA and push all that dozer line and just be along our way, because otherwise it's just not getting done. Projects aren't getting done. And so we've talked about that a lot, but no NEPA required for a forest fire. And no budget either. Yeah, you want whatever you want, call. If we have it, we'll send it. Okay. So that's Garnet. Let's look at a webcam. Buddy named Bert Stalter works on the Sierra. Great dude, and he's putting some comments in here on the forums at wildfireintel.org. I'll put this thread up here. Fellow burn boss. All right, so this is looking at Gifford for like the last 6 hours. And Looks pretty freaking nuke bomb to me. Could be worse. It's not 60,000 feet. It's only 15,000 feet. Anyway, yeah, so that's your picture of Gifford. We don't know much about what's going out there. Hopefully my buddy Sashua can get us some good photos tonight and have a good adventure while he's at it. So, okay, let's go. We'll work our way north, and so we'll hop up to the L2 fire on Lassen National Forest. This is where I was yesterday with Steinberg. This fire is small enough that they haven't really mapped it, but L2, just to give you an idea of where it is on Highway 32 between Chico and Chester, and kind of between, here's Butte Meadows, turn off here. You drop down to Deer Creek. Deer Creek Falls is right here, which is a good kind of, if you're driving 32 and you haven't ever stopped at Deer Creek Falls, you should do it. And another point of trivia is that Deer Creek Falls is the limit of anadromy for wild Chinook salmon. So wild Chinook salmon come up from the ocean, and they come up Sac River all the way to Vina, and then they hang up and they go up Deer Creek, and then when they get to Deer Creek Falls, they can't go any farther. But wild Chinook, pretty awesome. You can go out there sometimes and see like otters chasing 3-foot long salmon here in Deer Creek Falls. All right, so this is so right above the falls. This is the fire yesterday, and it was just a couple acres. It was like 5 to 10 acres, super steep ground, and there were helicopter drops going on these big snags. This whole area burned in 2008, and those heavy helicopters plus some hotshot crews on the ground pretty much wrapped this fire. When we first got there, kind of early afternoon, we weren't sure if they're going to hold it just because it was breezy, but it's kind of a little tucked in out of the main up and down canyon winds, and so we just watched 2 big heavy helicopters they're running out of Chester. One of them was a K-Max and was dropping bucket drops, and the other one was going up to fill out a big water source. It was like a Black Hawk. Cool spot. Like we said before, let's see. Having a big fire here in Deer Creek potentially wouldn't be the end of the world. If it happens under the right circumstances. What we don't want to see happen here is, this is Upper Deer Creek, and in the park fire went through similar old forests and just devastated all of Mill Creek watershed. So we know that when fires burn from the bottom to the top, they can be really bad. And so lightning fires like this one that start high on the slope and back down are kind of like everything you see in this photo here burned in 2008. And so it would be really nice to burn it from the top down again. Like we said, there's a lot of obstacles to that happening, but in the ideal world, we'd burn this. I saw someone post something, Franklin Carroll, that burning recent burns is bad for the forest. And it's like, well, that's a pretty vague statement. And I would say, yeah, burning this forest, I'd say that you can find facts in nature that support any perspective that you had before that you want to support. So yeah, if I lit a fire down Deer Creek Falls on a hot day on up Canyon Wind, it wouldn't be bad for Cub Creek. But if I had a lightning fire that we didn't have the resources to put out to burn this from the top down, I guarantee you'd have beneficial resource impacts. It would be good for the forest for this to burn from the top down. So just like anything, like talking about forestry on Facebook is kind of a fool's errand. I think we have to like go out on the ground and actually like talk about reality, because it's just too fraught. It's really hard to get points across. Here's Firehawk coming in to do bucket drops. Pretty impressive watching those guys work. All right. Okay. Anyway, L2's under control, and I'm going to jump to, I'm going to talk about the peak fire next. Peak fire is burning up by, we'll talk about the little fire real quick. So here's Redding. Here is the green fire that happened in July. Here's Shasta Lake. Green fire actually also was a really beneficial fire from a resource benefit side. It went on for a long time, but the forest is better off now than it was before. And then we had over here, I think it's a saddle fire. And so the little fire is burning right here. So it's kind of burning north of French Gulch in the Carr fire. So if we look at, here's the Carr fire, burned in 2018. Then we had the Delta and the Hers all in that same year. And incidentally, you had like the Zog and you had the Mendocino August complex, or the Ranch fire. So 2018, by 2020, like we had burned all the way from frickin' Highway 20. Well, basically, check this out. Between 2018 and 2020, we had fires that burned all the way from Vacaville, pretty much contiguously, all the way to frickin' Mount Shasta. Like that's 2 years of 3 intense fire seasons, and we had continuous fire all the way from Vacaville, all the way to Shasta Lake and on up to almost to Dunsmuir. Really crazy. Anyway, so what we're seeing now is that fires like the Little are burning in a 7-year-old burn that has a lot of kind of variety. So we've talked about here the checkerboard before, and the checkerboard is basically a remnant of the railroad days in America, where people who built railroads got given lots of land. And so because the Southern Pacific went up I-5 and still does, the railroad got given every other section of public land in exchange for building the railroad. And sometimes they got more. So anyway, private timber companies over the last century have consolidated all those railroad lands. And so what you've got, we've talked about this a lot, and you can look at other videos, is just this kind of unworkable management landscape. So here this fire started in probably on SPI land that was salvaged after the fire. So they came in here and they built a bunch of roads or skid trails, and some places steeper ground, they yarded the logs up the hill to this road. But basically they slicked it off. They left all the slash out there for the most part. And now that slash is super flammable. But these fires are also pretty easy to put out in this kind of slash fuel loading, because tankers can just come and paint, and it's pretty compact and everything. So then you cross the property line, and the Forest Service hasn't done anything. So over here, same thing. SPI slicked off all the land that they had that burned and sprayed it with herbicides and replanted it. So this fire is kind of burning on both, and kind of gives you an example of like super stark contrast of like couldn't get any more different. One side cut everything down, spray it with herbicide, plant trees. The other side do absolutely nothing. I'd say in the long run, like the jury is out on who's doing the right thing, and I'll leave it at that. Maybe not a super popular opinion with foresters, but just curious how many of these salvaged and replanted forests are going to survive to a merchantable age, especially because you've got enormous fuel loading on the public land. So it's an impossible situation for both the Forest Service, who has no resources, and the private landowner, who has no recourse when the Forest Service land burns onto them. So that's a little fire. I think it's probably going to get done, be done. You can see like all the salvage here that kind of defines the Carr fire from space in that checkerboard. So over here now, the next fire we got is Peak. We got Weaverville down here. And we got Highway 3 that goes over Trinity Center. And as we mentioned before, we got a lot of structures out here. A lot of people live out in this landscape. So these yellow dots that are going to load up are places people live. And so, and as we said before, also this fire is kind of similar to another fire we had in this country that was started by lightning 2 years ago, the Deep Fire. So this fire, if we look at kind of the growth on it, it's pretty slow growth. It's they've been able to kind of get aircraft and bucket drops and hand line, I think, on the uphill side of it. As you can see, losing my voice. So this is last night's infrared, and you see all the spot fires here on the kind of southwest flank of it, which is just, it's really hard to deal with that, right? And that's why when you see stuff like this happening, this is often why we end up with a indirect attack, right? Because if you got spot fires like this and you're cutting a hand line down through here and you're spending half your time chasing spot fires, that's what they say. Like, there's a rule of thumb that if you're spending more than half your time or resources chasing spot fires, it's probably time to abandon your primary kind of control plan. So I think I got a camera view of this fire. This fire also is not really going crazy. Just see if we can look at the. This is kind of mid-afternoon on this fire, starting at about 2:30. So this fire actually, with all the flanking and everything, we might get some decent fire effects. Not sure yet what's going on with this fire. I don't have a lot of intel. Let's just look at the last 2 hours and see what we got. Yep, back to spinning around, making this car sick. Organ Mountain. See what else we got up there. It's funny, we got like 10 million webcams, and then you get up to Klamath and Trinity, and there's like these huge holes where there's no webcams, and we just have to work with what we got. Sometimes you get a long view of it, but anyway, not a whole lot to report on Peak. And there's other sites like Watch Duty's got good summaries often of kind of what the public information is on that. So anyway, that's current status on Peak. So we'll go to Dillon now. And Dillon, as you recall, is burning up towards my friend's house. So we got Yreka here, Eureka over here, and in between we've got Urakistan and Karukistan. And I'm sorry, if you're offended by that, I'm sorry, I love y'all. I didn't make that up myself. But yeah, I'm not going to claim the ownership of that. Anyway, so here's T-Bar Road. And here's where the fire was yesterday when I was really upset talking to you guys. This is my buddy place here, Max and Nana Creasy and Dillon and Todd Soto, all kind of looking at a fire coming at him. So I got another perimeter here, and I just have to figure out where it is. Okay. It's getting to the time of year where I can't remember fire names. I'm like, which one was that? It's one of those. One of those fires. Okay, there we go. So let's last night on the Dillon fire. So as you can see, it's pretty pucker still for the Creasy place. Got fire all around them, and there's dozer line. There's an old dozer line through here that was put in 1987. So if you look at like the fire history in here, I guess the 87 fire line didn't stop a fire right there. Anyway, still pretty touch and go over here on T-Bar Road, but things like the posts I've been seeing and things I've been hearing from friends over there is somewhat stable. A lot of smoke. The scary thing is just that, if the fire crosses down here, last night it was active here on the south end. And so, if the fire crosses here and we have up canyon winds, these guys could still get hosed. So they're not out of the woods yet, but it's been kind of a slow motion stress fest for everyone over there. And still wishing them well. Okay, so grape crop damage estimated at $65 million. Okay, so that brings us to, I guess we could talk a little bit about that fire. I already forgot its name. Pickett. Okay, so that's about it for big fire action in California. Let's go down and look at Pickett while we're talking about the grape crop damage. There we go, 50%. All right, so just to kind of follow up here on Pickett fire. Lots of structures around here. And if you look at all the structures on the map, they picked a pretty good place for the picket fire to not burn any structures. It's kind of, you can't throw a dead cat in Napa County without hitting a structure, but this fire happened in about the best place it could for not burning up. So okay, so I saw a headline in a reputable mainstream television news source, I'm joking, that says this was an escape control burn. There were ashes on a burn pile or something. Let me say that pile burning, some of the vineyards burn their grapevines, and pile burning, piles are what escapes when you do prescribed fire. Usually you get a bunch of ashes and they last forever, and then the wind comes up like 3 months later. It's safe to burn a pile when it's raining, but you got to mop that shit up. And so I don't know what happened here, except that TV said this was a controlled burn that got away, and then you have like 300 assholes saying, goes to show that there's no such thing as a controlled burn, and how in this wind. Anyway, freaking idiots. Well, whoever started the fire is an idiot, but saying it's a controlled burn that got away, you got to be careful before you start ranting about controlled burns. I'd say burn pile escaping is not the same as a prescribed like broadcast burn escaping, and this stuff matters because as prescribed burners, we take the rap and they're like, well, that controlled burn that got away. It's like, well, dude, someone burned some piles and they didn't clean it up. It's not like CAL FIRE gave these, and they're like, how did they get a permit? And then all this bullshit about how once you get a permit, they can't suspend it and you can burn whatever you want. It's just like all this stupid shit. So yeah, don't take your fire information from comments on Facebook, TV, news stories, because it's clickbait and still don't know what happened here. But right off in the article, they're like, we don't know what happened, but we've got this headline that says there's a controlled burn that got away. Anyway, it's freaking stupid. So this fire's done, and everyone's glad. And my God, hoping Garnet fires out before hunting season opens out there. Yeah, and you know, that's another pet peeve of mine is that the Forest Service doesn't think that like people can safely operate in the forest like 2 years after it burns. So you get these area closures. Like last year, the Park Fire, there's an area closure for the C zone all around Chester, where they didn't want you deer hunting on this land where there'd been a fire. It's like, to me, it's ridiculous. It's kind of this like babysitting where they think that like people have to be protected from nature. It's like, yeah, a snag might fall down. It might block the road. Like carry a chainsaw, like some woodsman stuff. Like it drives me crazy when we can't use the forest because it's closed either for like for fire cleanup for 3 years or something. It's pretty ridiculous. Anyway, pet peeve. Okay, so now we're going to go into the kind of just naked self-promotion. We just got like 200 of these things. And they're for sale on our website. And yes, we asked Watch Duty. We're not making fun of Watch Duty. We're playing with the words, but we like Watch Duty. And they said it was all right. So the story with Watch Duty is we feel like it's everyone's responsibility who lives in the woods to help put fire on the ground, including Bigfoot. All right, so we're also going to have a Bigfoot burning the forest hoodie coming out for Christmas. And my wife and I have been doing like graphic design like forever and ever. It's kind of like when we first met. Ever since we've been together, we've kind of built brands, built companies, and made stuff we like this. So we got some other shirts that just landed. We've got kind of your old school lookout contours. And then we got the black one. And I'd say if you want to feel tough, get yourself a lookout t-shirt and cut the sleeves off. Okay. What else? Okay. Another thing that we're doing to help pay the bills is there's a guy in Westwood. I was up in Westwood over the weekend, and there's a guy up there who used to work in a saw shop, and he gave us a whole bunch of nice stuff. So let me just show you what we're doing here. We're doing a raffle, and we've built little packets. You know, we want to empower people to take care of their own business. So how do you do that? You start pruning vegetation around your house. So we've got these packets. So this is prize number one. I guess they're not in order. This is a prize packet. You got a Corona, a really nice razor saw, gloves because this thing's sharp, and a nice pair of loppers. That's prize pack number 1. This is prize pack number 2. This is a Fano pole saw made in Chico, California. I've got one of these, and they're really nice because you can reach up. If you go around and limb every tree on your property with this pole saw up to about 10 feet, that like dramatically reduces the likelihood of a fire kind of going up into your trees. We kind of just built a pack here. I had some old axes that I've collected, and this guy Heidenreich from Westwood gave me some more loppers. So this is the next pack. He threw in a nice little folding knife. This is the axe head. It's Craftsman. It's old. These are nice little pruners up to 1 inch. All right, so this is the firewood cutter special. This is called a picaroon or a hookaroon, and I made this. I forged this and put it on an axe handle. These are amazing for picking up firewood. Like you cut all your rounds, and then you don't have to bend over and pick up the round. You just whack your hookaroon into it, and you pick it up, and you throw it over, like hold it over in your truck and shake it, and it pops off. This is a logger's tape here. Made in America, 50-foot steel measuring tape. It's got a little pin on it. So you stick that in a log, and then it's got a little belt clip, and you just walk the length of the log, and you can say like, oh, I got a 30-foot log. So really nice. Also just for landscaping stuff. All right. Yep, original logger tape made in the U.S. in Pennsylvania. Comes with a pair of gloves. Also, and then this is the first one I showed you. This is a nice Japanese pruning saw. And that's got about a 10 or 11 inch blade on it, and it's super sharp. So this is nice for like pruning like fruit trees and other stuff that is a little less brute force. A nice pair of Corona loppers. So yeah, they're going to be in packets on our website, and you'll buy a ticket like you're purchasing an item, and then we'll cap it at something reasonable, so you got good odds. But this is a nice way for this guy to support us, and helps us. We want you guys to go cut stuff. And Greg Bean says, did they drop mud in Deer Creek? And they did not. He's asking about retardant. So this stuff's going to be up on the Lookout. If you go to lookout.org and you go to our store here, the shop hats and mugs, we're going to have those raffle items will be in here. We're also going to be, as we get into kind of craft season, I'll be making more of these fish, and I'm going to make more axes. But axes take a lot of time, and right now it's too hot and I don't have time. But anyway, check back. We're going to send out a newsletter tomorrow because we're releasing our video. And we'll have raffle info there. I got a regular listener that like teases me for drinking out of my empty cup over and over. Okay, Squatch Duty tees are there. Lookout tees. And my wife's packing all this stuff. Anyway. Someone says they want a Lookout branded Zippo. I recommend the Tweaker torch. Tweaker torches are better than a Zippo even. Okay, people. That's the Lookout shopping site. You find it through lookout.org. Trying to get a little rest. We kind of went crazy there for the last month and a half, and I think that's kind of hit a wall. So we're going to roll the stuff out as we can, try to keep it sustainable. Yeah, Zion Lion says get the Fiskars loppers. Get those long loppers. I agree. Or Corona too. Corona makes really nice stuff. So also once you get that stuff, you can check out like UC Cooperative Extension. And there's some good resources. This is run by the UC Berkeley, the Cooperative Extension, and doesn't look like their website's working. But they have good information on like how to actually use this stuff. Like once you got your loppers and everything else. Yeah, sorry, their website's not working. There's a lot of good information on the internet about how to get your defensible space, and And you can kind of zen out on it. And sorry, their website's not working. Yep. You're gonna drown in like home hardening stuff. But like, yeah, if your house looks like this, get our saw and pruners and go and start whacking a lot of stuff. Start pruning it up, removing the dead material. You get to play kind of bonsai with your vegetation and prune it, and it doesn't have to be just remove everything. So that's what we want you to do when you get your loppers. Even if you don't get your Lookout brand loppers, do some research and start managing your vegetation, gardening. It's good for you. All right. I think I'm going to play my happy song here again and get out of here. But thanks for supporting us. Thanks for hanging through these wackadoodle times. Yeah, we got a sponsorship spot open. So if you want your logo on our intro,